Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. You wake before dawn with your mind buzzing. There's so much to do and so much to get ready for. And you have to walk several miles before you can even begin to set up. You would have preferred to sleep a little bit longer, but duty calls. This is the big day. You work almost the whole year long to break into the black, and this is the last day of the festival. Business will be booming on this Black Friday. You roll out of bed, and even before your feet hit the floor, you're all action. Putting on your clothes, slipping on your sandals, and heading out the door. You gather all of your necessary items, a bulging change pouch, a small table, your trusty scales, several cages freshly filled from your backyard aviary, and you load them all onto your pushcart. You head off, still under the cover of darkness, well before the sun arises. As you walk the silent streets, filled only with the muffled sounds of others still sleeping, your mind rehearses all that the day is to bring. You can feel the energy in the city and the holiday spirit in the air, and those dreams of sugar plums dancing. Your whole family is depending on you for this successful day. Negotiating the dark, winding streets and navigating the rough cobblestones, you push your cart without upsetting any of the cages as you ascend to the top of the city. Just as the crepuscular light begins to make way for the brilliant arrival of the sun, you find yourself a spot next to some other vendors who are already set up, and you curse yourself for not getting here earlier. All the best spots are already taken. So you attempt to squeeze in a small opening between some sheep and ox vendors, away from all the other pigeon peddlers, who are all up front and center right before the doors to the temple. Your muscle memory by rote knows the exact placement of your scales and the cages on the table, designed for catching people's attention. Soon you smile to yourself broadly, knowing that you are ready to offer your service to all of those worshipers who depend upon you to provide their offerings. Sure, you mark up the cost of the doves to the going rate, but not over. I mean, who wants to make that long journey with a bird in tote? Nobody. You're offering a convenience for the people, for which they gladly pay the market rate. Before a long, steady streams of customers arrive. And then there's not quite a line at your stall, but you're making good money. You're serving the people. And while you're finishing a transaction, your senses are attuned to a commotion brewing somewhere off. There's somebody yelling. And then you hear the sounds of coins hitting the stones and tables crashing. You watch as a young man, followed by a throng of other men, is overturning the money changers' tables and yelling something about his father's house. You watch as the authorities arrive to understand the meaning of all this, and a hush runs through the market as everyone tries to listen and understand why this man is acting out in this way, breaking all the rules, causing such a hubbub. Why is he assaulting innocent vendors who are here to serve the people? The story of Jesus cleansing the temple is a famous story that appears in all four of the Gospels. It's so familiar that it can breed contempt for what it's trying to teach us. It has even become a popular trope, an internet meme for many mainline Christians to attack the fundamentalist piety behind the "what would Jesus do" movement. with many pithy things written under Renaissance art. You can Google it, you'll find it. As such, it becomes a vehicle for us to justify our own righteous indignation against any who would disagree with us and our values. But is that what this story is about? A petty tit for tat? Proving ourselves morally superior to others? I don't think so. The Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all place this story at the very end of Jesus' life as the precipitating offense that sets into motion the Holy Week drama of arrest, trial, and execution. But in this version, from John's Gospel, always the oddball, what we hear is something different. It's the very beginning of his ministry, right after his first miracle. Scholars debate whether or not this event actually happened twice, or if it's merely a case of narrative prioritization. Personally, I favor the latter, as I have to think that the marketplace would have quickly adapted to this rambunctious customer to ensure that he was not welcome a second time. I can imagine pictures of Jesus saying, "Do not let this customer come," just like we have in the thrift shop, right, Wilma? Watch out for this guy, he's trouble. Mostly what intrigues us about this story is Jesus' emotions. Why is he so angry? Is it okay to get angry like this? Is it okay to upturn tables? Can we justify our own anger with this story? Why is he breaking all the rules, upsetting the norms and regulations of the marketplace? These policies help ensure a smooth and fair operation. They allow for minimal friction to guarantee customer satisfaction. Trust me, I know just how important such protocols are. Just this last week, Nick Wythe, the public market manager, and I were reviewing our own regulations and rules for the Jamestown public market. And after this story, I'm beginning to think we might need a Jesus cleansing clause for our own protocol. Watch out for that guy. In the original telling of the story, written some 60 years after Jesus' death and some 20 years after the second destruction of the temple by the Romans, the community to which John is writing for is a Jewish community that's struggling to understand the role of Jesus in their lives after the temple is destroyed, and precisely as the moment that they're being pushed out of the synagogues and out of the wider Jewish community for their aberrant understanding and their nascent Christian practices. Like us, they're searching for answers on how to live their lives, practical tools to find peace, to be happy, to take care of their families, and to do right in their communities. They too are asking, what would Jesus do? And how should we pattern our lives after him? This is, of course, the question we must always ask. Today's pairing of this gospel story with the giving of the law at Sinai puts into juxtaposition the question of what does it mean to live a good life, to follow the rules. It presents us with a question of how can we faithfully engage with the law. The psalmist knows the quest for contented goodness well and speaks to our heart's desire. She writes, "The law of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the innocent. The statutes of the Lord are just and rejoice the heart. The commandment of the Lord is clear and gives sight to the eyes." Deep down, all of us want to have a clear vision and a clean heart. We want rules and policies to help ensure a smooth, fair path through life that allows for minimal friction to guarantee peace, security, and freedom. Or at the very least, we want to at least justify our actions. Few of us want to wander too far from that protective pasture of the status quo. And yet our shepherd often pushes the envelope and provokes those in leadership. So what are we to make of Jesus' demonstrative dismissal of so many of the rules that govern the life of the people? How should we pattern our life off this one-off event? Should we be angry at the world's injustice? Should we flaunt all the rules and live a life of emboldened grace and freedom as prophets and preachers? Should we seek to organize the people, to revise the rules, to make them more just and fair? Or simply by our own goodness, can we seek to shape the system for good? Finding the exact footsteps to pattern our lives after Jesus' complicated choreography is more challenging than mastering the likes of the tango, the foxtrot, the salsa, and those micro movements of a pop and lock all wrapped in together. But this dance of faith is precisely what we're called to learn to understand our own emotional states, to regulate them, and to work to create systems that are just and life-giving for all. For all. This requires that we interrogate ourselves and the values that we hold dear. Unfortunately, this is a task that we've barely begun as a human species, and one that will never, ever be completed. Just over 4 years ago, back in February 2020, the bishop invited me to participate with a number of other leaders from around the Episcopal Partnership from both dioceses to help create a strategic culture where we could engage this work meaningfully and purposefully. Of course, bringing together a whole room of strong-willed leaders, mostly clergy to boot, who are used to calling the shots is a daunting task. To set the stage, the bishop invited a facilitator, Ellen Fowler, who has since become my personal and our congregational leadership coach, to open us up for the task at hand. So she invited us to play a card game tournament. We broke into small groups to play several games, to learn the rules before starting our rounds of silent tournament play in table groups. We went over the rules in our small groups and learned which cards were the trump cards and how to coordinate our efforts with our partner, like in bridge, hearts, or spades, and to do so silently. And then tournament play began. The first round in our original group was fast, smooth, and fun. Soon it was time for the winners to rotate round robin to the next table. My partner and I got up to move to the next table. We shook hands with our new group, and silent play resumed. Things got strange quickly. It seemed that those at our table were either confused or trying to confuse us or just plain stupid. We'd clearly win the hand, win the trick, but they'd quickly claim it as their own and snap it into the winning pile. They were breaking the rules, and with impunity. We were outnumbered. Before I knew it, the game was over, and the two had moved on to the next table, and I was stuck wondering precisely what the hell had happened. As the next pair arrived at our table, the rules seemed to normalize again, and we won again and moved to the next table, only to discover another, now stranger set of rules governing the game. Play continued, confusion crescendoed, and pandemonium reigned. No one quite flipped over any tables, but there was certainly a lot of table slapping going on, as people angrily expressed, without words, the thoughts in their minds and the emotions on their hearts. Play stopped, and Ellen facilitated a conversation about how we all felt. Let me tell you how we all felt. Pissed off, mostly. The discussion went about as how you would imagine. People expounded frustration and hurt feelings about those cheaters who flouted all the rules. Others expressed utter confusion. And yet others, there are always those who are smartest in the room, smugly explained what had happened. I wasn't that person. I was angry. Each table had been given a different set of rules, with different cultural understandings of what it meant to win. Different cards being different trump cards and other rules baked in. Of course, this is the world that we live in. Rules that conflict, rules prevalent in other cultures that we can't quite see, rules that make us feel frustrated because someone else is cheating, someone else is getting a leg up. We had a fruitful conversation about emotional regulation, our values, and how to coordinate a system to invite a smooth, fair path through life that allows for minimal friction to guarantee peace, security, and freedom. The gameplay soon presaged the renegotiation of the very rules of the world itself as COVID arrived less than 3 weeks later. Since then, through the death of George Floyd and our ensuing racial reawakening, through the great resignation, inflation, and possible recession, to raging wars in Ukraine and Palestine, we have all been rethinking the rules and how to live life in a way that cultivates justice and brings peace. Today, I invite you, too, to pause and consider the rules. Consider your rules, the things you hold dear. Each of us must consider how to navigate the system and which rules to employ. And if we're patterning our life off of Jesus, we must know that there are times to challenge them, just as there are times to follow them. That said, Jesus' cleansing of the temple and overturning of the tables is not an open invitation to get angry and stay mad. Quite the opposite, really. No, it's an invitation to quietly observe and humbly question the rules under which we're operating. Are they just and rejoice the heart? Are they clear and give light to the eyes? Rules are meant to give life to the people and not suppress those not in power. We must all pause and pay attention to the values and the rules that we hold dear, because they might just be harming somebody else. We must pay attention to what Jesus is calling us to do. We must question the rules and work to make them just for all. And then, maybe, the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts will finally be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.